Hi Hamburg, hi Hamburg HTML Meetup. It's so great to be back again because this is my second meetup, and there are only 5 of them, so I feel really home here. When I opened my laptop, I was immediately connected to the Wi-Fi, which is a good sign, so it means I'm at home. I have this strong connection here to this meetup. Although I live like 1,000 kilometers away from Austria. My name is Manuel Matuzovic. Yeah, my name is Manuel Matuzovic. I'm a front-end developer from Austria, like I said, from Vienna to be precise. And I currently live in Graz. And this image is really big now that I see it on screen. Okay, I have to change that. I'm not just a front-end developer, I'm also a consultant. I mostly consult about accessibility stuff and also CSS sometimes, but usually, enterprise CSS as soon as it gets a little bit larger. And I'm also an accessibility auditor, sorry. So I check the accessibility of websites. I'm a teacher, and also since recently, I'm also an author. I recently wrote a book. We'll talk about the book later. And today, I don't want to talk about the typical topic you would see at a meetup where I teach you a thing and how to do something or how to use a certain element. I want to talk about an idea that I didn't have, but a friend of mine. And he's called Vasilis van Gemert. I probably butchered his name right now because I don't speak Dutch, but Vasilis van Gemert, if you want to see it in Viennese, but I think it's van Gemert. And he wrote an article for the HTML Advent Calendar. HTML is a website that I created where we collect really, really bad HTML that we find on real websites. We remove any traces that will lead you to the original source because we don't want to blame or shame anyone, but we show you this horrible HTML, then we explain what's bad about it, and we offer better solutions or alternative solutions. Let's call it alternative solutions. The domain is html.dev. And another thing we have on the website is the Advent Calendar, which I started 2 years ago. So starting every year on December 1st, for the 24 days leading up to Christmas, we publish an article about HTML. So 24 authors write 24 different articles about HTML. And it's not just about accessibility, it's about anything. It could be about security, about performance, UX, you name it. It just has to be related to HTML. And there will be another one this year. And I already read some of the articles. It's going to be a good one. So you might want to check it out. And Vasilis wrote an article for last year's edition called The UX of HTML. And this is also the title of my talk. And I wasn't sure what to talk about today. So I asked people on Mastodon, what should I talk about? And Leah provided me some great ideas and also other people. And then Vasilis wrote, well, talk about the UX of HTML. And I was like, yes, that's really smart because I don't have much time and you already wrote it. You already did all the thinking. So I'm just going to turn your talk, your article into slides. And that's what I did basically. And I added another layer. So what the article is about is the following. Vasilis is a teacher at the Amsterdam University of Applied Science. I've been there and I was lucky enough to give a guest lecture there. It's incredible. Like they have a 2-year dedicated front-end development course, 2 years just front-end development, which I've never seen to that extent, especially. And they also focus a lot on accessibility, which of course I like a lot. And some time ago, he gave his students a coding assignment. They were supposed to design an art-directed page for a font or something like that. And one of the students asked Vasilis, does it have to be semantic and shit? And when this student asked that, all the other students looked up at Vasilis, expecting him to hopefully say no. And Vasilis said, no, it doesn't have to be semantic and shit, but the UX has to be well considered. And all the students were relieved because they didn't have to care about semantics. But, that was like a trick answer, kind of, because well-considered UX begins with well-considered HTML, at least on the web. But for some reasons, his students didn't connect semantics with UX, although they're tied strongly together. And somehow his students are really allergic to semantics and shit. Maybe not shit, like in the literal sense, but semantics. And they're not alone because it's not just his students and it's also not just my students, but it's our entire industry. We all seem to be very allergic to semantics. We don't know how to label elements. We don't know how to create a document outline. We don't know how to create buttons and links. Or at least we don't understand the importance of semantics. Like we are really bad at HTML, we are bad at semantics, and also we don't know how it affects our users. And that might sound really harsh to say that we are bad at HTML, but you know, it's a fact. It's kind of based on my personal experience because, like I said, I'm an accessibility auditor. I see a lot of websites, and I don't just do that professionally. So people do pay me good money to look at their websites and tell them what's wrong about it. But I also do it in my free time because I don't have a life. So I see a lot of websites, and I look at them in a very specific angle, and I can tell you the situation is not great. And of course, who cares about my opinion and my experience because it's very limited and it's also very biased probably, but there's actually data. And here's an example. There is a yearly evaluation called the WebAIM 1 million, where this NGO called WebAIM tests the top 1 million websites. They run an automated test on each website, and then they take the results and they write this report. And they will tell you how many websites contained accessibility issues. The number is 95.6% of websites they tested. So almost all of the websites had some accessibility issues. But they also share other interesting data. For example, they also share the most common issues they found on those websites. And if you look at that list, you will see that the top issue is low contrast text. Okay, then we have missing alternative text for images. So images that don't have any alt attribute. Then we have missing form input labels. We just saw that in Marco's talk. We have empty links. Empty links means there's a link, but there's no text alternative. For example, if you have an image, the image has no description, link the image, then the link has no text. Empty buttons is the classic. Empty buttons I found on every audit. Like the website could be really, really, really great in terms of accessibility, but I will find an empty button. So a button, for example, that only contains an SVG with no alternative text. And missing document language. And if you look at those 6 top issues, 5 of them can be solved or avoided using semantic HTML. So we seem to be all allergic to semantics. And that's why Vasilis decided that instead of talking about semantics, instead of using the word semantics, he's going to talk about the UX of HTML. And all of a sudden, his students weren't allergic anymore to semantics. But they were really interested because they like UX, they understand UX, and they also understand the importance of UX. Instead of explaining the meaning of a certain element, he shows them what it does. So when he teaches HTML, he always starts with elements that are obviously interactive because those are the most approachable things. There are a lot of UX layers to a link or a form, for example. He shows them what happens if you right-click on a link. He shows them what happens if you use input type text for an email address instead of input type email. He shows them what happens if you use a details element and so on. Because these interactive elements are what makes the web the web. Those are the most important parts of the web. And they're also the things that truly break or make a website. So if you get the interactive stuff right, you have done already a great job of making sure that the most important parts of your website are accessible and usable. So this is why he puts emphasis on the interactive stuff first. And his students get this. His students get this. They understand what he's talking about if he doesn't talk about the theory, if he doesn't talk about semantics, but he talks about the UX. What happens if you click that element? What happens if you do this and that? And I really, really like this approach because he's basically talking about the same thing, but from a different perspective. And it's making it more tangible to his students. His students understand the benefits of semantics without him even mentioning the word semantics. He just talks about the UX. And that's not just good advice for teachers, but also for all of us, especially if you're working with interdisciplinary teams. So if our teams of developers, designers, testers, POs, whoever is involved in building a website, content people. If we focus more on the UX of HTML in our discussions, in our meetings, then our products would be so much better. Because just like Marco said and showed us in his talk, not bad, right? It's so important to speak the same language and focus on the same things and have a similar view on things. Because it's much easier to talk about something that's tangible, about something you can feel and something that you can experience yourself than talking about theory. It's important to talk about theory like Marco just did. It's important to talk about ARIA and what it does and how the code works and so on. But I'm sure that the designers in this audience, Marco completely lost them because they don't understand ARIA, but they understand UX. And even if you're not a UX person, if you're like a product owner, whatever, you understand UX because you experience stuff when you use the web. Of course, if you want to talk with someone about the UX of HTML, the people also have to understand the UX of certain HTML elements. So they have to know how certain elements work and what they do. But I guess that's easier than having them to learn HTML. Like it's easier for a UX person to learn how certain HTML elements work than to learn HTML. So if you talk to your colleagues the next time about a mock-up, for example, or maybe a finished design, don't focus on the visuals, don't focus on the semantics, don't focus on the content. Try to find a common language, and that common language can be UX. Of course, you have to talk about design and semantics and content at some point, but there is a certain time for that. Let me give you an example. I've prepared something really basic. And it's this. Like I just took the Meetup. Oh, how am I going to do that now? Okay, this will be horrible for me, but I will try. So I created this, which is a super simple page. I took the data from the Meetup page for this Meetup. And if I wanted to talk about this page, this mock-up for a website, for something that could be a website, then I would try to not talk about like I usually do or like I do with my clients. I'm not going to talk about semantics and ARIA and how to write that stuff. I would rather focus on the user experience. So for example, if you want to talk about the links here, you don't talk about the A element and how smart it would be to use the rel attribute, for example. You can tell that the developer, but I'd rather say we need an element that users can click, but also at the same time, an element that users can focus using the tab key. And if the user can click this thing, it would be also great if they could use the enter key to activate that thing. And if they right click, it would be great if they could open it in a new tab. So you talk about all the different things that you can do with a link as opposed to, I don't know, a span with a click event, for example, where you can't open a link in a new tab. And you can also add more layers. You could say, you know what, the great thing about this link is that I can drag it here and use it as a bookmark in my bookmarks bar, for example. Or if we talk about this red div here, for example, or button or whatever, you know, then you also want to describe what it does, because sometimes it's hard to figure out, is it a link or is it a button? Or maybe, you know, just div. So you could say, I want to click this thing, but also if I use a keyboard, I'm a power user, you know, I like to use the keyboard. I want to be able to click this thing as well. And this immediately tells me, okay, this is an interactive element. And now we have to figure out what happens. Like, do I want the same functionality as with the link or a different functionality? And when you say, you know what, when I click it, I want a dialog to pop up, then you already know, okay, this is probably not a link. It could be like, this is a gray area, but it could be a link, but it's probably a button. And when you talk about the dialog, you don't talk about the semantics of the element, but you say, you know what I want? I want, when I click this element and I'm using the keyboard, I want the focus to move directly into the element. I don't want to focus to stay in the background. I want it in the dialogue. The stuff that I'm saying seems really obvious, and it's probably obvious to you because you're professionals, right? But it's not that obvious, because as soon as we put it into words in meetings, as soon as we tell people how this thing is supposed to work, they will remember that. Or at least they have it somewhere in the back of their heads and they can recall it when they're building the stuff. So if tell them, I want to be able to do the right click on the link. I want focus to be here. And when I close it, I want focus to be back on the button. You have to say it. You have to talk about the UX of your elements for people to remember it and to understand how to build it properly. For example, if you have something like this, like the details element here, you can say, you know what, I want to be able to click it, open and close it. I want to do the same using the keyboard. And if I search for something that's hidden, I want it to pop up in Chromium-based browsers. If you talk about a form, you can talk about it like Marco did. You say you have a label, you have an input field, you have to connect it using for ID, or you just say, you know what, when I have an input field, I want to be able to click the label. And then it should focus the input field, the respective field. I want something that increases the touch area, that increases the target size of this element. I want it to be easier on mobile to find this element. And then you can step it up and let's try if this works. Once you've talked about the easy stuff, like the interactive elements, you can also start to talk about the non-interactive elements and how they can improve the user experience. And then you might need someone who knows how to use screen readers. So instead of saying, we need headings, it's good for SEO or whatever, put an H1, H2 there, you could say, it would be great if we provide users with means of navigating the website in an easy way. I want users to be able to access the members part of the website efficiently. And then you could say, you know what? Oh no. Okay. No. Okay, I can't show you what I wanted to show you because I'm seeing it on this screen and not on this screen. Okay, doesn't matter. You could, for example, show that you can navigate by heading, for example. So if you press certain shortcuts, you can jump from one heading to another heading. So you don't talk about the tag that you want to use. Don't mention even H2, H3, and so on. You just mention that you want to jump from one heading to another heading. Or when you talk about lists, you don't say that, you know, this one list creates bullets and the other one uses numbers. But you could say that the great thing about lists is, and you have to look here, that it will tell you how many items there are. I will do it again. It tells you there are 3 items in this list. And if you keep navigating, it will tell you on which of them you are. Like you're on 2 or 3. Usually there's audio, but I'm not. No audio here. We didn't test it properly. I didn't remember that I'm going to use a screen reader. That was not really smart of me. When you talk about the input field, for example, you could say that you want to know that there is an error, that it's an invalid field. And here, I'm not sure if you saw it, but if you look close at information, it will tell you it's invalid data, it's an email, it's an edit text, and it also, after announcing that stuff, it will also announce the error message here. Or tables. I love tables. Tables are awesome in HTML. But when you talk to the designer, you don't want to get into this whole tables are bad debate. You just want to say, okay, if we have something where we have a multi-dimensional list, it would be great if I could easily compare the different columns, stuff that is inside those columns. So, and as a Screenreader user, I can jump directly into a column. I can move between columns. And if I switch from one column to another one, it will automatically announce the location and so on. So you talk about that stuff. What happens if you use a table element? Kind of mess it up, but I hope that you understand what I was trying to do. Okay. So talking about semantics from an angle of UX makes it way more exciting for all the other people who do not understand semantics necessarily. And it also helps you create better products. parts, because you have to really get into the UX of the elements. You don't have to learn HTML, you don't have to learn the attributes, you don't have to learn all this like stuff that most people are allergic to. You focus on UX, which most people understand. And yeah, it helps you create more informed decisions. And then you're able to talk with your colleagues about stuff that actually affects your users. You don't have to talk on a very low level, but on something that really affects your users. And you don't have to talk about semantics and shit. Thanks so much. Any comments or questions or anything? Yes.
Question, but not a question. Like, is there any like recommendation? Like, let's say I'm building a carousel components. Then is there any place like a storybook each place I can look at this? Like, this is the best practice of building carousel in terms of accessibility, like reference or copy paste.
Here it is. You picked the worst example, because I've seriously never seen an accessible carousel. Like, building an accessible carousel is really, really hard. And also, a carousel is not a carousel. Like, there's auto-playing stuff, there's stuff when you only have an image, and then you might have more content and so on. It's like really like, there is no, how it's called, one-fits-all solution for a carousel. There are resources. I'm not going to put them on screen, because then people can say that I put them on screen, but I'm going to say it out loud. The ARIA authoring practices guide is like a official, semi-official, no, actually official resource, where there are a lot of, especially interactive components that are supposed to be accessible. So they don't just offer code, but they also explain how to build it and which keyboard shortcuts to use and which ARIA attributes and so on. But you have to take it with a grain of salt, because some of them are, some solutions are debatable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm building carousel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just look at other websites and how they implement like.
Don't do that. No, fuck no.
All the websites they build it in their own way. So what to build you have to do. I have to.
No one wants to build one. No one wants to build a carousel. Okay, check it out. Here it is. Okay, this is the authoring practices guide, and they describe the keyboard interactions and so on. And I don't know how good or bad it is, but it's probably not perfect, because there is no perfect. Like, I've built a carousel for a client, and I don't like it. I don't like the solution. It's not a good solution. Yeah. No, it's like, I don't want to hate on it. Like, there are great examples on the authoring practices. It's probably the best you can get, but you still have to do your own testing. Like, you can't fully trust this resource, because they have opinions like everyone else, and some of the opinions are not the best. Yes, please.
Just to come to that, I do think there is an open spec discussion for implementing an HTML carousel.
Oh, really? Okay.
So whenever that might be true. Yeah.
Hopefully never.
Yeah.
It's pain figuring every layer of the inclusive design style. Pain figuring, inclusive design, and every layer.
Anything else? Yes.
Maybe a different question. What sort of testing strategies do you usually have if automated? What do you usually resort to?
So it's the most powerful and the most inexpensive tool you can get, which is the key right next to the Q key. It's not W, but the other one, tab. This is the most powerful testing tool because it will tell you a lot about the keyboard accessibility of your website and also about the screen reader accessibility. So when you fix a lot of stuff, or if you fix most of the stuff for keyboard users, you're automatically already fixing a lot for screen reader users. So if there's one thing that I would do is I would, on any website, just use the tab key and see if I can do all the things that you can do with the mouse. So let's try. I've never been to the website. Okay. So, okay. So I'm on this website, and what I usually do is after running automated tests, after making sure that I have 0 errors or like a perfect Lighthouse score and so on, what I do then is I click on stuff and okay, this already makes me curious. Like I want to see how this looks with the keyboard. Then I click here. Okay. This opens. Do I have to zoom out? Yeah, okay. So this opens this overlay. I can close it. Then I would try to search for something like Franzbrötchen. What can I do here? Okay, this is just a link. And so you just click through the website, you see, you try to explore the website, try to find out. I mean, if it's your product, then you probably already know, but if it's like if I'm testing a website. And then I try to do the same thing using the keyboard. A trick is to open the console. You just click somewhere here, and then you press tab, and then you see what happens. Okay, so this already tells me there's no skip link, but there probably should be one here. So I'm on the button, I press enter, and then I expect that I can navigate here. So I press tab again. Okay, that's not perfect, but it's okay, I guess. No, that could be better. So like my expectation is that if I focus the button, I want focus to be on the close button or maybe on the first link, whatever, somewhere inside here, but it seems like I'm staying in the header, and then I'm able to access those other links. Let's try the search. Okay. Where am I? Okay, so I'm somewhere in the back. Yeah, it should be in this overlay here. So that's one of the best testing tools. Like I only tested for a minute now and already found two issues. And it will tell you a lot about the site. So can I see where I am on the website? Can I access all the content I want to access? If you're using divs instead of buttons like the div that we saw earlier, you wouldn't be able to access it and so on. So this is the best tool. Don't start with screen readers because it's just horrible. It's a horrible experience at the beginning. You really need time to learn how to use them. I'm really bad at using screen readers, but I've been using them for 8 years or so.
Don't listen for predefined keyboard shortcuts, for example, Control F or something like that.
Yeah.
For the search. That's so important for websites that yeah, I want to use the browser search to find anything on the page and not their own search. That's
yeah. Or if you talk about the UX of stuff, I'm not sure. Let me. Was it this website? I think. Yeah. If you talk about the UX, like you have this navigation here, and when you hover it, the sub navigation or the sub menu pops up, which is great for UX. Like you don't want to make that click, you immediately want access to all those things. But when I'm using a keyboard, I don't want that. Why? I think I can show you here. Okay, let's say I want to find Personen here. So I press tab. Okay, can I close it? Let's see. What happens if I press enter? No, it brings me to the organization page. So I have to tap through all the items here in all the other sub menus in order to get to Persona. So this is also another thing. Like this is not necessarily an issue per se, like an invalid HTML or ARIA, whatever stuff thing, but it's bad for UX. So this is also something that you can say out loud in a meeting. Like, how is the experience when I use a keyboard or a screen reader?
They call it false.
Yeah.
maybe I would like to give a short conclusion because both of your talks are really very complimentary.
Yes, I really liked it. Yeah,
Great, great talk for you guys. And correct me if I'm wrong by saying something here. So I see something common here when we talk about UX, UI, and I come from engineering, I'm the guy with the data problem. And then I can say that many problems in software actually come from the approach of going inside out instead of outside in. And you said that really well. So if we focus, and you also added to that, if we focus on starting writing the software by actually talking to the person or people who have some requirements, and then starting from there, to be concrete, I want to search on my page. And then we talk to our customer and we define what do we need from the search. And then we go and build the search based on that. So the best practice of building the search doesn't exist because every search is different, like every customer has a different idea of what do we want here to achieve. And after that, we write HTML, right? The programmers write HTML. And after that, we write some kind of communication with the backend. And then I, as an engineer, write exactly that.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, if we go from the core, then we have all kinds of leaks, all kinds of best practices being really bad. And then at the end, everything goes to the, don't build cores. Go from the top, try to build exactly what your customer wants and nothing more. And then you will see that there's way less code in all of the requirements, front and back end database and stuff like that. And you will, like, the best practices will emerge. And I can vouch for this one. You write 80% more code that you need, Is this something that you could confirm? Is this the right attitude of writing software that's also being focused on accessibility and everything we talked about today?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
no, that's my question. So this conclusion from today is something.
The thing is that often when we talk about solutions for our clients or our products, whatever, we tend to focus a lot on the visuals. So the approach is often you have a briefing, we need this and that, and the designer draws something, then people talk about the design, they move stuff around, and then the front developers get that to translate it into HTML, and that's what's wrong about the process. The fact that we focus too much on the visuals, maybe also too much on what the client wants and what the client thinks the user needs, but we're not building something for the client, we're building for the people who use the website. That's the point. So we need to shift more of our efforts and our communication towards the users and the user experience. That's basically the gist of both our talks, just from different angles. That was a really technical approach, one that I also use, but it depends on who I'm talking to. And this is one that works for, this is a political party, I really want. One that works for all the parties involved in the team and not just developers. And if you're talking about approaches, like I really like the progressive enhancement approach, the content first approach. This is how I build websites. I start with content, then HTML, and make sure that that works right. And then you've already done a great deal because we heard, you don't want RES if you don't need it. And then you add layers of CSS and then maybe some JavaScript. But I'm old school.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. There's one more thing. We just talked a little bit about, accessibility and accessibility testing and so on. I wrote a book. It's called the Web Accessibility Cookbook. And I didn't put it here to promote it. But if you want to buy it, there's a button. Get the book. No, it's a link. It's not a button. It looks like a button. But as it happens, I have one here, and I want to give it away to one of you. And I, unfortunately, no. I have a quiz question. And the person who can answer it first gets the book. You are excluded because you already have it, and you're also, you already have it too. So name a valid HTML element that starts with the letter R. Ah. Okay. Say it again. I'm sorry. It's yours. Okay, no. You will get a digital copy from me, okay? Name a valid HTML element that starts with letters. Column what? Call head? No. No. Yeah, there's call group and call, but there's no call head. Maybe there used to be one back in the day.
Can I search it?
Yes, please.
Why didn't I just say call?
There's call group, there's code and canvas. We already heard code, sorry. Yeah. Yes, but we already heard code before, sorry. But yeah, canvas will be... So there's sorry. There's call group, there's call, there's caption, yeah.
Yeah, I just ignore that.
So I would say it's yours. Cool. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, if you have any questions, just ask. Thanks.